Hello and welcome to this video. It's Claire and today I'm going to share the locations that I consider to be the most and least van life friendly. Starting with the location that I felt was the most van life friendly, we had such a great experience in Alaska. I know this state is kind of like a whole thing to visit. Just getting there takes a full week one way if you're gonna drive it. I'm not joking. If I remember correctly, we drove like 8 to 10 hour days for 7 days straight. We might have taken a day or two break in the Yukon territory of Canada. I can't remember for sure, but the point is it took forever to get to Alaska. It actually really put into perspective how wild it is that it's considered a part of the United States because it is so far away. But I'm telling you, it's worth it. If you're not on a time crunch, take your time and spend at least a month just going through the entirety of Alaska. The state itself is amazing, but you also have the bonus of driving through like the middle of nowhere, beautiful parts of Canada. In our experience with Alaska, we had really good luck with camping spots. If you're a full-time traveler, you know that finding a camping spot that's free is not always easy. In Alaska, it was easy. I think the camping overall is what makes Alaska so van life friendly because we just never had a single issue with finding a place to stay. We used a couple of different apps that helped us find camping spots, but the ones I recommend the most are called iOverlander and Seeker. There was one spot that we had right outside of Seward that was the best camping spot out of our entire van life experience. It was just this bare land surrounded by mountainous terrain, and there were not waterfalls, but these like massive streams coming down the mountains, and it was really amazing. We were isolated enough that we felt like we were in nature, but there were like dozens of other campers within sight, and right across the road there were multiple sleeping establishments, so we felt safe. We also saw the northern lights and had a pretty legitimate bear sighting at this camp spot, so that was a really awesome experience. The other great thing about Alaska is all of the activities. There is, of course, amazing hikes, just take your bear spray. There's a lot of water activities you can pay money to experience. Like we did a boat tour and saw so many awesome aquatic animals. We saw whales, seals, or it might have been a sea lion. I can't remember. The seafood is great, the people are nice. There's multiple national parks in Alaska. We went to Denali National Park and can't recommend it enough. I did talk all about that in another video, so I won't repeat all of that here. I also recommend the North Pole if you have little kids. Homer and Seward were both awesome. Talkeetna and Whittier were really interesting. The downsides to visiting Alaska are the cost of groceries and the weather. We went for the month of August and we absolutely froze. There definitely were a lot of days that were beautiful and sunny, but the locals that we talked to said that wasn't normal, and usually July is the only month that's nice out of the entire year. But even though we lucked out and got a lot of really nice days, I do remember being really cold most of the time. I think my main piece of advice for visiting Alaska in a rig is if you're gonna do it, really do it. Don't rush, take your time, and just really visit everywhere you wanna go, because with the drive just to get to Alaska being so long, you might not make it up there again. So I would just go into it viewing it as a once-in-a-lifetime trip that you probably won't get to do more than once. The least friendly van life location could go not to a whole state, but to a few different specific locations within states across the US. But the one spot that in my book takes first place in this category is Key West, Florida. This actually really shocked me at the time. On our way down to the Keys, I was expecting it to be a lot like Alaska, actually. I thought we'd be like beach camping and bumming around and just really being like the stereotype of a van lifer. Unfortunately, we learned Key West would never allow that. Well, first of all, I've been to Key West before, so I should have known this, but the beaches in Key West are really rocky terrain. They're not really your typical sandy beach. So even if it was allowed, it wouldn't be possible to drive and park on that terrain. The other issue there is they literally don't allow overnight camping anywhere. The majority of places throughout the entire United States have like Walmarts or Cracker Barrels where they allow you to park at for free overnight with the unwritten rule that you spend money at those locations. But the Walmarts and Cracker Barrels in Key West don't allow overnight parking. I have to say, I understand why they do this because one of our biggest takeaways from van life is that humans literally do ruin everything. The Walmarts and Cracker Barrels in Key West had to stop allowing overnight parking because they were being overrun by campers and their lots were getting trashed. So I don't blame them, but this meant for us, right off the bat, our go-to camping spots were not an option. There were so many campgrounds there, so we just thought, oh, we'll just spend money tonight and stay at one of these campgrounds. No. Every single campground was booked for the next 365 days. Basically what we learned is snowbirds from all across the country book their camping spot like years in advance, and they just kind of have their like regular campground that they go to every winter. So rolling into Key West and expecting to just get a last minute camping spot is probably not gonna happen. We technically could have just parked on one of the main streets in Key West and just paid for the meter throughout the whole night, but we couldn't find a parking spot. Every parking spot was taken. So using the iOverlander and Seeker apps, we spent over 2 hours driving around to so many spots listed on those apps, and every single one was a bust. There were a lot of comments on iOverlander from other travelers saying they had the police knocking on their window at 2 a.m. and they had to literally drive all the way out of the Keys in the middle of the night because they got kicked out of town. We did end up surviving the night there, but we had to be so stealthy. What we ended up doing was definitely frowned upon, but we just found this residential neighborhood and there was a church within this neighborhood. We were also able to kind of just park just perfectly enough in front of this church, but also like off to the side. So we didn't really attract any attention from residents in the neighborhood, and it was late enough that nobody was even at the church to notice us in the first place. So we arrived there at like 10 o'clock at night when the sun had already gone down, and we were up and gone by 7 a.m. We woke up the next day and could not believe we had made it through the night without getting the knock. So because that night was so sketchy for us, we only stayed in Key West one night when we had planned there to be like a short week. Definitely not the laid back, hang loose experience I was expecting. Fun fact, Key West does not have diesel. No gas station in Key West had diesel. And we learned the hard way. Most gas station attendants in Key West have no idea what diesel fuel is. We were met with a lot of confused looks. So we're like freaking out because we're very close to empty and no one had diesel. So we finally just left. We left Key West and now we finally found a place. So my biggest piece of advice with the Keys is do it, visit in your rig, but book a camping spot at least a year in advance. That is my experience with the best and worst places to stay in the United States. If you enjoyed or found this video helpful, please give it a like, consider subscribing to my channel, and turning on the bell notification. See you next time.